Turning now to Wall Street versus Washington, President Trump is suing JPMorgan and its CEO over alleged debanking, while Bank of America and Citi consider new cards with a 10% rate to satisfy Trump's call to cap credit card rates. Joining us now is Herman Chan, bank analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence. Herman, you probably didn't see yourself also becoming a political analyst, but here we are. Here we are. Offering a 10% rate cap. It's obviously not the worst scenario, considering the worst scenario would be a blanket 10% cap on all credit cards. Right. What might this business actually look like to have banks start to offer some of these Trump cards?
Right. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. And I'll admit that things are fluid right now. Our colleagues at Bloomberg News have talked about a new credit card offering by Citi and Bank of America with a 10% rate cap. In our view, that's probably limited to your prime, super prime customers.
It's so meaningless without knowing the terms, isn't it? I mean,
exactly.
You could say we're going to offer a 0% card, but it's only for, 2026 and only for people who earn more than $1 billion a year. Like, who cares?
Exactly.
Unless you know the details, it doesn't matter.
Right. And banks are already offering a 0% APR introductory rate anyway. So does it really change things? At this point, it doesn't look like it does.
How should we just be thinking about regulatory risk, and more specifically, regulatory risk is even the wrong word, just the risk that the president calls out specific banking CEOs and does lawsuits or tries to take action, versus a more accommodative sort of environment for the banks to allow for things like consolidation.
Right.
Which wins out?
We've got a little bit of both for the banks that are operating in this sort of environment. The big banks seem to have the brunt of the political risk given the credit card issue. We've seen Trump, limit buybacks for other industries or want to limit buybacks for other industries. So that is the overarching risk for the banks. I would venture that the regional banks that aren't in the limelight probably are operating at a better standing because they can do the M&A but don't have that regulatory risk that you just mentioned.
The Chiron here, Trump sues JPMorgan for $5 billion and I think more importantly, Jamie Dimon, right? So this is the kind of thing that focuses minds, certainly is what the White House is thinking. And I don't know why the copy always says alleged debanking.
Right.
Like debanking, either it happened or it didn't. Right? The point is why it happened, if so. How should we view this case?
Right. So my Bloomberg Intelligence colleague Elliot Stein has said there's a 70% chance that JPMorgan could win this potential lawsuit because banks have very big leeway to close customer accounts. And I harken back to why this happened, because during the Biden administration, there was a much stronger push for reputation risk with the regulators. And so that trickled down to the banks and how they operated and how they potentially closed accounts. So it was part of the regulatory fabric at that time, which now has been removed.
At least Jamie Dimon's going to be paid more. They just raised his pay increase, I think, to like 40.
But only $42 million. And if he's on the hook for $5 billion, that's probably more than he actually has in assets.
I would assume the $5 billion, though, is not just him personally, right? Like,
no,
that's him
split,
plus JPMorgan.
and probably the bank takes some liability
exactly.
for that, right?
And there's blanket insurance on executives for these sorts of things as well.
All right, Herman Chan of Bloomberg Intelligence will continue to be talking to you, as well as Elliot Stein and Jennifer Rhee of Bloomberg Intelligence on this suit. Now, record